Welcome to Just Start, Get Visible, your go-to resource on the journey to becoming more visible in a way that feels right for you. Hey, friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Just Start, Get Visible. I'm Jacqueline M. Baker, and I am honored to be your host today. Today is a special one because we are celebrating a large milestone. This is our 250th episode of Just Start Get Visible. And it's a celebration. It's a celebration of the journey, of taking action, of embracing very much imperfect starts, and amplifying a whole lot of voices around me along the way. Because what truly began as a fairly simple idea, just start, it has grown into hundreds of conversations with founders, with corporate and non corporate leaders, and professionals just like you who've chosen courage over comfort, which is often what's required when we give ourselves permission to just start. In this milestone episode, we reflect on the most powerful themes from the past 250 episodes. We'll talk about the impact of showing up consistently and many of the lessons learned from the incredible guests who've shared their stories. It's also a moment for us to look ahead at what visibility really means, what leadership really means, and what personal growth will require in the next chapter. Also, you can prepare for a bit of show and tell because while I share a lot of my personal stuff here on the podcast, all in service of you starting the things that you want to do, there may be some things that you've seen, some things that you've heard, but quite a few things that you haven't. And so I'm really excited to bring some visuals to add to the words that I'll share today in a little bit of a show and tell fashion. So if you're not watching this, you have the opportunity to do so if you head over to jacquelinемbaker.com/250 for, of course, our 250th episode. So if you've ever wondered what happens when you simply decide to begin, to just start, so much of today's episode is proof of that because many of the things that I've given myself permission to start, actually all the things, if I'm just being honest, it has been just a decision point, right? Not necessarily feeling right, having the right resources, etc. It has been deciding to choose courage over action. So with that, let's dive all the way into episode number 250 on the Just Start Get Visible podcast. All right, just a short while ago, actually last month, I celebrated something else. I celebrated my 4-year departure from my corporate role. It is no secret. I've talked about my last corporate role quite a bit. My last role at AARP was the vice president of startup programming for AARP Innovation Labs. And I am the first one to say that I absolutely loved my job. I loved what I did. However, I knew that that's not specifically what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And so I knew that I needed to get back to Scarlet. I needed to get back to providing people with the confidence, the tools for them to be stronger leaders, to see themselves as leaders, and also to understand and have some type of baseline as it relates to the etiquette training that we teach to our little people as well. And so 15 years ago, I started Scarlet, right, which is our etiquette and leadership consultancy. However, I want you to pay attention to some numbers that I just shared with you. I said that I started Scarlet 15 years ago. All right. I also said that I left corporate 4 years ago. And to be specific here, I spent 8 years at AARP. And so I was living the double life for a long time. Now, luckily, I ended up landing in a role that I actually really liked, not the entire time when I was at AARP, but a significant amount of the time that I was at AARP. I actually really enjoyed my work and I wasn't clamoring to leave it. However, I want to plant that seed in your mind just for a second because I know that many people come here to the Just Start Get Visible podcast to hear from dynamic guests who started things, to hear the tips, tools, resources, and storytelling that I provide. But in full transparency here, especially as you're thinking about starting stuff, let's not get confused with the fact that sometimes as we're going through transition, as we're deciding to start, as we're getting up the resources, the confidence, or whatever it is, we're living or we have the opportunity to live the double life. 8 of the years of me growing this company, I had a job. And so while I know that some people's approach is like quit it all, throw it all on black, I'm gonna quit my job and go full scale on that thing. That's not the decision that I chose to make. I chose to live the double life for quite some time, which meant taking some significant sacrifices, almost all the vacation that I had in my corporate role, I dedicated towards time that I needed to go on book launch and go on book tours and speak at certain places because I needed to separate, I needed to decouple the two. And so the first thing that I want to implant in you, or the first lesson that I want to share, and thing that I learned, I truly over the last many years of building this company and also having a corporate role, is that the way that you decide to start can look so different than maybe what other people have told you. Maybe you choose to live the double life for some while, for a short period of time or a long period of time, until you get your confidence up. And so that was one of the biggest learnings, and one of the biggest learnings that I continue to pass along, because I want your start to feel comfortable. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely some level of discomfort in this starting world, but I don't want you to rush into things too quickly where you feel like, oh my God, everything has crumbled. Maybe it looks a little bit different for you. So I wanted to start there and be transparent with that. And one of the things that I've learned and that's worked on the journey. The second thing that I want to share with you, which will give us the opportunity to go into a time machine and rewind back easily 20 years, and it's to the experience of me starting the first company that I ever had. I co founded a company called Opal E Event Planning. And to read you into that a little bit more, the original name of the company was Opal Emerald Event Planning, but we were like, "Girl, that's too much." It was me and one of my dear friends, Zemin. And as a matter of fact, in the spirit of the first show and tell item, this is a picture of Zemin and I way back in the day. Zemin and I were working at Wayne State University, where we both have our degrees from. And we were essentially event planners in some shape, form, or fashion at the Student Center building. And one day we were disgruntled about something. I don't even know what it was. And we were like, you know what? We're going to start our own event planning company. And we literally went down to the city county building shortly after and started Opal E Event Planning, which was an event planning and production company, which I've talked about several times here on the podcast, that we ran for 8 years. I mean, literally, my wedding was the first event the last event, excuse me, that we did together. And here is another lesson that I want to share with you about my experience with starting that company is two things. One is, you didn't hear me say Zemin and I hemmed and hawed and waited 60 days or waited, 6 months or waited 56 years. Like, no, no, no. We were like, you know what? We want to have this experience. Let's start. Like, let's do this. And we went down truly to the city county building in downtown Detroit and started this company. And while there are many things that we could have done differently, quite frankly, honestly, that was one of my biggest, my first experiences with just literally starting, like, go, like, don't overthink this. And that truly, over the years, over the past 20 years, have implanted a seed in me of how important it is to give yourself permission to start, even when you don't have things figured out. Now, I know in the very first lesson that I just mentioned to you and taking you on the journey of me having the corporate role and then also living the double life, I don't want you to get confused in that I wasn't starting. I had started the company, right? And I was going while I had the corporate role, but I was very smart. And when I decided to eventually completely sever my relationship with my corporate role. And so remember that there's a lot of different ways that you can start, and it can look completely different, but do give yourself permission to start, because so many of your questions get answered in the action. So many of your questions get answered in the action. Okay. So first is to start, right? And rewinding back to that Opal E event planning experience. And just, you want something, go after it. Put one foot in front of the other every single day, right? Take one small action, learn from it, pour that information back into your process. So that's the first thing from that particular sector of my life. The second thing is to remember to utilize the skill set that you acquired in your past roles, experiences, into whatever it is that you're working on now. And I apply that to both my previous corporate role, and I apply that also to experiences from my foray into being a wedding and event producer. While now I am not producing weddings and corporate events, I do have a significant number of things in my life that we do, whether it be launching books, launching podcasts, executing retreats for our leadership companies. All these things require skill sets from experiences that I have in my previous roles. And so why wouldn't I tap into those skills to do the things that I want to do now? And so remember, whatever it is that you're doing now, you're probably doing some level of skills, some type of tasks, some things where you can siphon those experiences and utilize them for whatever it is that you're starting. So don't just totally cross out stuff. I know a lot of times lots of things don't make it on our resume anymore. If you worked in food service way back in the day, if you had my very first entry level job, that probably doesn't make your resume anymore. And that's cool. However, you still have the experience. And so are you utilizing those past experiences and skills to help contribute to what it is that you have going on now? Okay. So if you fast forward now, past my very first company, which was Opal E Event Planning, I started a company called Scarlet, which ironically is still in service and still in business and still making impact to this day. And while there are lots of things and lots of lessons that I'm still learning as a result of leading at this organization, I also want you to think about this and think about some of the key things that I have and still do take away that help me start things. And I'm hoping that they'll help you start things as well. There are a couple things, but there's one in particular that I absolutely want you to remember. And it is that you need people, you need consistency, and you need and can benefit from accountability. Over the years, we have had this wonderful opportunity to work with other etiquette instructors that have been subcontractors, vendors that allow us to get the good business done, an assistant that I brought on board and been able to promote into an operations assistant and an instructor as well, right? So many different people that help us to keep the business going. So many different people that also benefit in being a part of the Scarlet world. They get enriched, they get experiences, they're able to pour back into people, right? The experiences and the skills and the expertise that they have. And so as you're thinking about starting, or maybe you've already started, whatever it is, I want you to remember that you have the opportunity to utilize and leverage people, right? Now, maybe you're thinking, you know what, Jacqueline, we haven't gotten so far yet that we're able to actually hire people. And I get it. However, are you starting to think about how you may be able to do this thing, grow this thing that you have been dreaming or wishing about, and keeping people in mind? There probably are some people around you that maybe have even said, like, hey, how can I be helpful? And you haven't even stopped to think like, oh, that's right, this person does this person does this, maybe they can assist in this way. So remember that you have the opportunity to leverage and utilize people. The second thing I want you to keep in mind is consistency. And consistency is one of those things that I've learned significant lessons about. I've bumped my head on consistency so much, but there is just such a unique opportunity for you to remember that consistency allows you to show up in ways that almost look like magic. If you rewind back just to the last episode, jacquelineandbaker.com/249, I talk about consistency and how so many people often think that I am everywhere all the time, but it's not that. Like it's not that I'm, on literally on social all the time, literally speaking all the time. It's just that my consistency in talking about it makes it look that way. It gives me a boost in visibility. So how are you being consistent in a way that works for you? And then also accountability. For so many years of me operating at Scarlet, I have had accountability partners. I have led accountability groups. I have been a part of accountability groups. I'm right now in the middle of standing up another accountability group for entrepreneurs that are very serious about taking things to the next level for whatever that looks like for them. Accountability has been honestly one of the secret sauces for me because I work by myself a lot. I'm literally in my office working a lot. And I need people and I know I need people. And so I bake in as often as I can the opportunity to allow other people to hold me accountable and for me to hold them accountable as well to create this sense of community. And so, while there have been so many learnings and so much impact and so much joy over the last 15 years of Scarlet, what I will say is people, consistency, and accountability has been a huge plus and huge things that have shown up and benefited the way that I've started and the way that I've been able to make impact. All right. Another significant stop that I've made along the way is my very first book. And my very first book is called Leader by Mistake, Becoming a Leader One Mistake at a Time. And it looks just like this. Okay, maybe you have a copy of this book. And let me tell you about how this book came to be, because maybe you're going to choose to use this strategy to start the things that you truly want to do. Okay. I recall many years ago, I believe that it was 2017. I'm just going to fact check myself here about opening up the book. Yep, 2017. I was working on the book. Right? I was working on it, making progress, but I wasn't done. This was early in 2017. And I got the opportunity to speak at a conference called Blogger, Blogher. And I don't think Blogger exists anymore in the way that it previously did. It probably was purchased and now has some other extreme value in the world. But I was asked, I had this opportunity to speak there. And I knew that it would be such a dynamic opportunity if I was able to speak there, but also sell the book right outside. And so I put myself on this time crunch because I committed to speaking at this conference and having the book there. And the book was not done in January of 2017. And I know how I am. I am someone who I don't necessarily thrive on pressure, but I do pride myself in making deadlines. And I know that oftentimes when I have a forcing function, then I get it done, right? I wouldn't say I was procrastinating per se, but I didn't have a sense of urgency behind this deadline. So it was just like go, 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 right? But when I signed up for Blogger, it was like, oh, go, you must get it done. So I did two things. Number one is I signed up for Blogger, which was happening in June of that year. And also, I fasted from wine. I love a good, bold, rich red wine. And so I knew, like, okay, I'm going to fast from wine until I get this done. And I did. And guess what? I was there in June 2017, signing this book and giving a talk, right? And so I encourage you to think about what motivates you, what moves you, like, and how can you leverage that? And of course, you don't just want to be signing up for stuff if you know that you're not somebody who has the personality to like lock in and get it done. However, if you know you thrive under pressure and you will get it done if you put yourself in a high stakes situation, perhaps that's what you choose to do. So as you're thinking about starting the stuff that you want to do, getting visible, elevating to your next level, might you put some forcing functions in there to help you truly get your thing over the finish line? It could be, you know what, at my HOA, I'm going to sign up to do a little talk about blah, blah, blah. At my kids' parental meeting, if there's some type of learning hour among parents, and in 6 months, I really want to have this small little book written for parents. But you know that you just keep dragging your feet on it. Maybe you know if you commit and sign up to that, then you will get it done. All right. So figure out what truly moves and motivates you, what inspires you to get stuff done, and give yourself a forcing function if that works for you. Okay. Now, if we fast forward a little bit after the Leader by Mistake book was launched in 2017, I had this other opportunity that I created. It came up in my mind that I wanted to do this. And so I decided to launch a podcast. Ding, ding, ding. Guess what? It's this podcast, but the name was different. When I first launched this podcast, it was called Just Start From Ideas to Action. Any of you all remember that? Any of the OGs remember that was the original name of this podcast? And what I came to realize is that I wanted a little bit more specificity around the podcast. I wanted it to not just be ideas, 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 action, action, action. I wanted to take it a little bit further and say, well, what do most people that listen to this podcast and that are in my ether mostly need? What can they mostly benefit from? They can benefit from giving themselves permission to be more visible in a way that feels right for them, because in doing so, it helps them to start the things that they want to do and elevate to their next level. And so just a few years back, we rebranded the podcast from Just Start From Ideas to Action to Just Start Get Visible. And here are a couple of lessons behind that. First is it is okay to start things, and then it is okay to adjust and change. Because I certainly thought about the change a long time. Should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? And I remember I needed to eat my own stuff here instead of like lamenting, overthinking. I knew I needed to make a change. And so I did a small accelerator, got some support, right? Had some accountability around that, got a coach involved, and then decided to rebrand to Just Start and Get Visible. So it is okay to start and it is okay to change, because think about it. What if I never would have started at all? I literally wouldn't be at episode 250. I would still just be what if, what if, what if. But now I've had 250 episodes with both the brandings, Just Start From Ideas to Action and Just Start Get Visible. And it's been highly beneficial and impactful to other people and to my growth as well. And secondly, I talked a little bit about consistency just a little bit earlier, but I encourage you to hold yourself accountable to consistency. And let me tell you a little bit about how the podcast has evolved over the years. Okay, so while we are on episode number 250, we have embraced different levels of and different cadences of releases over the years for lots of reasons. All right. In the very beginning, we truly were releasing every single week, which we do right now. It looks different, but we still do it every single week. But somewhere around like year two or so, while we were still releasing pretty consistently, I feel like things got a little bit dicey. It just felt like there was consistency, but I feel like we were always running to the finish line and kind of try to catch up and release something. And then I feel like last year, I feel like things got even dicier a little bit because we were experimenting with not releasing every week, but releasing twice a month. And I just feel like that had a little bit of diciness to it as well because it's like, okay, what week of the month? It just didn't feel as consistent as I wanted it to feel. And so finally, we have arrived at this current cadence that I actually really enjoy. And if you've been paying attention this year, you know that this is how we rock for our 2026 calendar and our podcast episode releases. We have an anchor episode every month, and that usually is a guest episode. And within that guest episode, we talk about a lot of stuff. But the rest of the episodes for the month are all direct to camera with just me and a little bit more of a lesson and teaching style versus conversational. But all of the lessons for the remaining months outside of that guest anchor episode, they're all tying back to that anchor episode. Instead of it being just all these other questions and all these other conversations or lessons about completely different things, it's like, no, you had this great anchor episode at the top of the month. And now let's take some time to build out from that conversation and reference back to that dynamic episode for like 3 to 4 weeks. And it allows the content to live longer versus feeling like we're recording and moving on, recording and moving on. So it lets the content live longer. But also, there's this level of consistency that just feels really good with this particular model. All right. So, a few things here. If you've been itching to start a platform, a podcast, whatever it is, start, first of all, know that you can change, you can start, and then you can change things up overall. But I want you to get to a place where you are truly checking your consistency. Are you just releasing every now and then? Are you like, okay, every now and then I'll drop some stuff? Or is it being done with intention? And I want you to take podcasts out for a second. If you're thinking blog, right? You're thinking some type of newsletter, some level of releases, some talks that you're doing, even on YouTube. What's your level of consistency? Does it make sense? Are you stretching your content long? Because content now feels like it's release and go, release and go. But are you truly allowing your content to stretch longer, or are you just sporadically releasing stuff and nothing makes sense or nothing's connected? All right. So podcasts, we're here at episode number 250, as I've said many times. But those have been some significant learnings that I've experienced over the past many years actually, and maybe some things you can take away as you're thinking about getting more visible in a way that feels right for you. All right. Now, if we fast forward a little bit past that, specifically to year 2022, another little release happened. And many of you may have this book. This book is called The Unexpected Leader, Discovering the Leader Within You. And this is my second book in partnership with Wiley Publishing. And I just love this book. I love the way it feels. I love the gold. It's just beautiful. Absolutely love this cover overall. But this was my second book. And there are some lessons, some big lessons here that I want to share with you about releasing this book. Right. And it is, of course, an honor to be able to show you this, which is the actual cover of the book if you're listening to this and not watching, but also to show you this, which is a custom cereal box that we had created that the book went into during our initial release week for the people that we wanted to display the book to give out as a gift before it hit bookshelves overall. But let me explain to you why this was important to me, this cereal box, which was delivered to homes all across the country and beyond. I shared my dream and my interest in releasing my second book to a friend of mine. I just shared it with her, like, hey, I think I'm ready to write my second book. And little did I know, she had the opportunity to make a connection to me, to have a conversation with someone that absolutely allowed me to bring this book to life. And so I'm going to stop right there and remind you that you probably have a wealth of support around you, of people that are more than willing to introduce you to people, mention your names in rooms, make introductions to you, connect you with the right folks for networking. But are you sharing your dreams and desires with them? Are you? Because truly, I could have said nothing and nothing could have come of this. However, almost one of the biggest projects, of my life has was simply because I had a drink with her, one of my friends, and a meal with her, and expressed to her like I think I'm interested in my next book. And here we are. But furthermore, in addition to just sharing my dreams, I also knew that it was important to be able to arm the people in my circle with the right resources to support me. So not only did people get this box with the book in it, they also got a book brief. And that book brief said, hey, if you want to support the launch of The Unexpected Leader, here's a little script. Here are some social posts. Here is how to connect directly to purchase the book. If somebody wants to buy in bulk, they go specifically here. Here are some quotes from people who read the book that have, some raving things to say about it. I made it easy for people to support me and to support the book. So number 1, are you sharing your dreams and desires with the appropriate people in your life? I'm not saying go out and use a megaphone and tell any and everybody. I mean, make it make sense and make it, be smart about it. So are you sharing, or are you just like, oh, I'm going to keep this tight and close to the chest, because tight and close to the chest isn't helping you, right? You're not spreading the information to allow people to truly support you. So are you doing that? And secondly, are you making it as easy as possible for people to support you? Because I could have just said, hey, y'all, like I got this book coming out, buy it, holler at me, check me out. No, no, no. Instead, I'm going to make sure you have a copy. I'm going to make sure that you have a book brief. You know specifically what to say. You don't have to overthink it. And if you want to modify some stuff, change some words here and there, please go right ahead. However, people are busy. And so I wanted to make it easy for people to support me, which is why I provided a book brief. So please, like one of the lessons that I encourage you to share or encourage you to really think about and to utilize is share your dreams. And secondly, make it easy for people to support you. Okay. Now, if we fast forward to the next and actually final show and tell slash biggest learnings over the past 250 episodes, it is something that has had its share of iterations, I'll say. All right. So just last year, I started to speak much more vocally and much more direct about our first physical etiquette product. Okay. However, this product actually was birthed some time ago. I recognized through our work at Scarlet that we needed a vehicle to be able to make etiquette training specifically for our young people more accessible. So, to take you on a little bit more of a journey with Scarlet and about Scarlet, Scarlet started 15 years ago specifically with the intention to teach etiquette to teen girls. That's why we started the company. Over time, we evolved to be a leadership consultancy, and etiquette is still a strong, important part of what we do. However, there was a time when we only taught etiquette to teen girls, and that's all that we did. Well, over the years, what I've discovered is that sometimes it is hard to make etiquette training accessible to our young people all across the country. And so I had this vision of creating a physical product that they could utilize wherever they're at and that could help them start the spark of getting etiquette knowledge and confidence into their lives. And often, one of the best places to start is dining etiquette, not only because we all have to eat, but also because it helps to instill confidence in young people. And from there, then they become more curious about other types of etiquette training. What's travel etiquette and what is business etiquette and communication? But dining is often this great equalizer because we all have to eat. And so I had this vision to create this product. And so I said, you know what? I think I want to create a product called the Manor Box. All right. And as you can see, if you're physically looking, there's this box here. It's white. It even is branded by Scarlet Communications, which is not even how we refer to ourselves as the company anymore. But this product and this vision actually was cooked up several years ago. And these were the first pilot versions of this box. And over time, it has changed. So, of course, the box was white to begin with. Then we experimented with some smaller colored boxes. This one's a burgundy box. Then we experimented with a mustard box, still a small box. And now, in our most optimal format for the Manor Box, it's a large mustard colored box, of course, with our branding on it. And it specifically says dining at the bottom because we have other iteration of the boxes coming in the near future. And there are so many lessons that I want you to take away from this part and this particular product, which is the newest launch that I've had. And it is sometimes, sometimes you have to ask yourself, is the timing right? Have I tried and have I tried again? Because at the time of initially launching this, we didn't necessarily have the infrastructure or the connections or even just the capacity to produce the Manor Box in the way that we're doing right now. And the vision, in many cases, there are lots more things that were going on back when that very first white box came out. And so sometimes you may give yourself permission to start things and maybe it won't go as planned. But the question is it time to dust that thing off? Is it time to take it off the shelf and try again? Or maybe you're like, Jacqueline, oh, back in 4 years ago, I tried to start. I was listening to the podcast, right, 4 years ago, and I tried to start and that thing didn't work out. Okay. Like 4 years ago, we were still very much deep in the abyss of COVID. And maybe it just wasn't time for that. So I want you to take some lessons from my experience with the Manor Box, which is a staple product from Scarlet, of course, and ask yourself, is it time to try again? Was the timing right? Right? Is it just time for me to just give it a try again? Okay. 250 episodes has been quite a wonderful journey. It has been great to spend time with you. It has been great to spend time with dynamic guests that have brought me into their world, that have brought me into their physical spaces and allowed me to learn from them. I'm hoping that from my experience that I shared, from my time in AARP, where I lived the double life of having a job for 8 years, but also growing a company that celebrates 15 years this year, from experiences from my very first company, Opal E Event Planning, and my business partner and I, Zemin, just decided we're just going to start. But perhaps that's not something that you wanted to do for the rest of your life, but you still have those skills, right? So are you allowing yourself to extract those skills that you previously acquired and use them in other spaces? I'm hoping that you think about my experiences at Scarlet now and in the past of understanding that you have the privilege of finding people and leveraging consistency and leveraging accountability to start and grow the things that you want to do. Even when you think about my first book, Leader by Mistake, is it time for you to put some forcing functions in your life to say, you know what, I have signed up for X, so I've got to get X done? Do you know what motivates you and are you leveraging that? If you think about this podcast, like you have the opportunity to start and then decide, do I need to change some things overall? And do I need to make sure that I'm being as consistent as possible and finding the cadence that works for me in whatever it is that you're releasing, whether it is a podcast, an article, a newsletter, whatever feels right to get visible for you, right? Are you sharing with other people what you want to do? Or are you just keeping it all tight to the chest, just hoping that somebody's going to pry your head open and look in there and say, oh, you want to do this? Now I'm going to help you. That's not how it works, right? Are you sharing your dreams and your desires with other people? And are you making it easy for them to support you? And have you launched something before or talked about something before or wished about it, maybe even tried it and you're like, oh, that didn't work? That did not work for me. And is it time to try it again? Listen, you deserve the opportunity to experience just starting. You haven't heard any part of my experiences over the past 250 episodes and before. You haven't heard perfection. You haven't heard that I have had the holy grail of perfection, that I have all the answers. Not in any of these cases. However, what you have heard is this consistent, perpetual commitment to starting, giving myself permission to experience new things, giving myself permission to make some mistakes along the way, to apply the learnings from those mistakes to the new thing, and committing to impact, committing to showing up here for you each and every week as consistent as possible and give you the honest truth, both direct from me and also from my guests. So I look forward to the next however many podcasts we will produce, who knows. But in the meantime, I hope that wherever you're at, that you're safe, healthy, and well. I hope that you're giving yourself permission to truly start the things that you want to do. And I look forward to continuing to support that journey for you each and every step of the way. So thank you for rocking with me for 250. Let's see if we're going to go for 250 more. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you again soon. Ciao.